Well, we're off on a great adventure.
We are.
First, we're going over to the garage.
Well, that's always a great adventure.
But then we're heading for Wendover.
Right.
There's a Fremo event. Sounds sort of like Freemasons.
Free-moN.
Free-moN. It's Free-moN. So it's an N-scale group of people from all over the western United States, and they're meeting on an old at an old airfield.
Oh, neat.
So this should be a lot of fun.
Right.
So check this out. So Fremo-N.
Oh, N-scale.
N-scale and Fremo. Fremo is really interesting. There's so many different modular systems.
Right.
But Fremo's fun. It's got a rather rigid set of standards, as they all do, but I think it allows for more flexibility.
Okay.
So where a lot of these things end up being just an oval of track, look at this, what you can do with Fremo. You can have all kinds of little intersecting islands and elaborate track plans. I think it just allows for more flexibility.
It sure does.
Than a lot of the other standards. And then people will bring their modules, in this case from all over California, Utah, Northern Utah, Southern California, together here on this old Army Air Corps base to just run trains.
It's fun.
It's open to the public, but for the most part, it's just so that they can get together and play with trains.
There you go.
Massive screwing around. Oh, somebody's screwing around over there.
They are. Who's that guy?
Who is that guy? He's got a bit of a limp to him. So look at this, Utah Railway.
Oh, isn't that cool?
Not a railroad you see around a whole lot, but you do see it modeled quite a bit in northern Utah.
Right.
Because that's where it is.
That figures.
It runs between Helper, pretty much Helper and Salt Lake City, but you will find it as far north as Ogden.
There you go.
And all over Carbon County.
Right.
But we went and visited their shops.
We did.
And here's a link to that show. But it's a very interesting short line with some very interesting ties to the Denver and Rio Grande.
Right.
Now notice that these guys are actually doing what modelers call realistic operations.
Right.
I'm noticing they're working from switch lists. Mm-hmm. A lot of people work from the little waybill cards.
Oh, okay.
But some people will work from switch lists. I think it's a little closer to the way real railroads work. Uh-huh. But that long piece of paper sticking out of his pocket there is his switch list for putting together his train and what has to be taken where and what has to be delivered to what siding and so on.
I understand that list. I'll tell you. It's ponderous.
Oh my goodness, do I have a list.
No kidding. Just don't be listless.
I have the to-do list and the to-done list, and I try to make the to-done list get bigger than the to-do list. Never happens.
Right.
Never happens, never will. Now, most of these guys have modeled some very specific place that they have in mind.
Right.
And as a lot of these guys are from Southern California, a lot of these locations are from Southern California. And then because a lot of these guys are from Northern Utah, we've even got the Bear River and stuff like that. This viaduct is near Riverside.
Right, and my mom lived in Riverside, but I had family in Riverside.
Oh man, I like Riverside,
I do too.
and I've never seen this viaduct, so they told us how to find it.
We found it on Google.
We found it on Google, and I say we go check it out next time we're in that neighborhood.
Sure, that's neat.
Because that's a neat looking viaduct.
Oh, my name's Kalen. Kalen Matson. So we're from Southern California. We have members out in Long Beach and Napa Valley and Riverside and Upland and all over the Southern California area. And we're out there doing model trains, doing Fremo.
That's neat. So which of these modules are yours?
So my personal ones are those two, the double track modules there. But I brought about a third of all of our modules out from Southern California for the show.
Neat. So that would be this one,
Yep.
and
these,
this whole end of the railroad then.
Yep. We brought all these. These are Roberts that passed on that are now club modules, and these were Jerry's and a bunch of different other people's out here.
Thank you. And so just like the locations from various places around the West, the equipment is too.
Oh, cool.
Notice this is Burlington Santa Fe.
That is a colorful train.
I love that
I
paint
do too.
job. And that's a neat railroad, merger between Burlington and the Santa Fe. Clearly this is the California contingent that brought this in.
Right.
Just like we saw the Utah Railway that clearly came in from the Northern Utah
Right.
people. But we've got Amtrak, we've got Utah Railway. You're not going to see this particular mixture of equipment in the real world anywhere.
Right.
But right here, it's you've got palm trees right next to the Weber River.
Hey,
so whatever.
You could.
Yeah, anything's possible.
That's right.
This is the fantasy world.
Other end of Hawaii to the it had moved. I gotta fix that this morning.
Wow. What the problems are? I don't know. Sure.
I want to pick up a local.
Are you? There? Oh, way over there. I like that we use road power for switching. It is. You should see our yard with Uncle Pete. They switch with crazy power.
Now, we mentioned before that this is really just a way for these guys to all get together to run trains.
Right.
But it is open to the public.
It is.
It's always open to the public. And boy, did they go out of their way to put on a good presentation.
They do. I really like coming out. This was fun.
This is really fun. Usually you're going to run into a modular group at a train show. And this is just a dedicated Fremo event. There's nothing going on here except the Fremo event.
Right.
But they really go out of their way to put on a nice show. And the nice thing is it isn't crowded, and you can talk to everybody and ask them about their equipment. And it's a much more interesting environment, I think,
It is.
than the crowded train show environment that we're used to.
Right.
This was really fun.
Yes, very relaxed.
Very good.
Get a nice little peek right there.
Yes.
Now, N-scale has some very distinct advantages.
One is it doesn't take up a lot of space.
It doesn't take up a lot of space, and that means that you can do modern Class A railroading.
Right.
If you want to do these big modern trains that cover a tremendous amount of distance, we can't do that
No.
with our 20th scale narrow gauge rail.
No, ours hauls lever right.
Yes, we have the lever right railroad,
Yeah,
lever right there.
Lever right there, yeah.
Because as much space as we've got on our current railroad, it's not quite as big as this one,
No.
but it's an engine shop.
Well, yeah. And
That's all it is. It's an engine shop.
right. Just one of the trains take up the back of the whole vehicle.
Yeah, so the advantage to N, yes, the trains are very small, but that means the railroads can be very, very big.
Right.
And these guys are covering an enormous amount of distance. In terms of scale miles, they're actually covering quite a bit of distance.
Right.
And that's really neat.
It is.
Now, back in the 1980s, I had an N-scale railroad.
You did?
And when we were going through all the various videotapes, I found videotape of it.
Oh my goodness.
We'll have to share that here on the channel at some point.
Absolutely.
But in the 1980s, operation was difficult.
I imagine.
I had some really nice rolling stock by Katie, the people who make the really nice couplers.
The Katie coupler.
The Katie coupler, and all of my rolling stock was Katie, and it ran really well, but my locomotives were challenged.
Oh.
And but over the years, it's gotten much more reliable. A lot of the equipment that we're seeing here is by Cato.
That's where the disco.
And boy, they make some beautiful locomotives and stuff that actually run.
Right.
So N-scale's just really become a viable option.
I really like it. I wouldn't mind modeling it myself.
Oh, look! There's
Well, not that.
there's an atomic bomb
Yes, how'd that get in there?
sitting right next to the railroad.
Oh.
As Paul Harvey would have said, that's the rest of the story.
Gee.
This airbase is where the 509th Composite Group trained
Right.
the people who dropped atomic bombs.
Yes.
And needless to say, top secret, there were 20,000 men stationed on this airbase during World War II.
That is amazing.
And they trained people to fly all the big bombers.
Right.
But toward the end of the war, they brought in the B-29s and learned how to drop atomic bombs without anybody in that group knowing exactly what they were training to drop.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was also located right on the Western Pacific.
Right.
The Western Pacific served the base, and so it has a lot of railroad history as well. Of course, today it's on the Union Pacific
Right.
because of all the mergers and so on, but it has some really, really interesting Western Pacific history
It sure does.
at this location. It was also the intersection between two of America's very first interstate highways, the Victory Highway and the Lincoln Highway.
Wow.
But the giant thing here is the Salt Flats.
Yeah, it's big.
It's a big desert. It's a big plain of salt, and this is where they race cars. This is where they used to set the land speed record all the
Right.
time, and they still race cars out here. And what a great place to build an Air Force base for training people how to drop bombs.
That's right. You can see forever. Isn't that our house over there?
Anyway, it's the last surviving, completely accurate World War II vintage flight line.
Isn't that neat?
And so it's a great museum, and what a fun place to have a Fremo event.
Exactly. I wish those buildings could talk.
Wouldn't that be nice? Well, if you haven't been over to the channel, get over to the channel.
Yes.
And if you're not a subscriber, then become a subscriber so you can see the follow-up show to this show.
Right.
And the easy way is with the blue button.
There it is.
Right there.
Yes.
Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you here on Tuesday
Right.
as we're working on some projects.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you
ya.
then.
Bye.
Bye.